All right, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we had a great big Northern Lights display on Sunday night and Monday morning, and I figured I'd just make a little video breaking down what I did for my time lapse and what I captured that night as it happened. This is, I shot with my D750 and shot it at with a 14mm lens at ISO 3200 for 6 seconds. And I just kind of left it out there because there was clouds out and I didn't really expect much. So I didn't really get much earlier, but about 10:30, here comes the Northern Lights. There's the first little flare, flares up. And luckily the clouds started to clear out, but here's a pretty little red flare. It's about a KP6 minus 10 BZ right now when this happened, about 10:30. And it just shot up with a nice little powerful flare. And after that dissipated, we got a lot of dancing on the horizon that was covered up by the clouds, and it kind of danced there and kind of gave it just a little bit of wet your whistle a little bit for what was about to come. And then it just kept dancing on the horizon here for a little bit, and then all of a sudden this little green, you can see a really strong wave just hit, and every shot got stronger and stronger and stronger. And each one of these is 7 seconds apart, and then all of a sudden it just shot up, formed these really awesome pillars. I mean, look at all this. Look at the definition on the lines here. Just one line, two lines, three lines. Just there's some dimensionality to it. It's really cool. And then this thing just massacred the horizon. I mean, this is 14mm, as wide as you can get before going to fisheye. And it just, I mean, here's the North Star. Look at this thing. This is the North Star, and that's 47 degrees up, so this is probably 60 degrees of height on the horizon. And then, of course, some clouds started moving a little bit. But once this main red flare hit, then we knew we were going to get some dancing on the horizon just like the last time. And all of a sudden, here comes the dance. And it started slowly working its way up. And now it's up to about the North Star. And then it just exploded clear up over my camera. I didn't have it set up. I had some foreground because I figured it would just be a small horizon storm like normal. But this thing shot clear up overhead. One of my friends said it's just completely like overhead, 110 degrees. If you look straight up, you'd get it. And I was inside when this happened, but I caught it. I just figured it'd be cloudy, so I just set up a time lapse for the night. But look at this thing just go up overhead, and it was just incredible. And then we had another red flare in the middle of it, and it shot clear up, and it just kept sending it overhead like incredibly. Like, I'm surprised we had a break in the clouds, because the clouds are starting to come in now again. There was just this little break in the clouds right at 11 o'clock when all this dancing happened. And that was the first major peak of the night. That's the biggest the Northern Lights have ever been that I've seen here. There's been a couple other storms in the past 4 or 5 years, but they're either clouded out or smoked out. This is the first time I've actually seen it to where it was just ridiculous like this. And then after that happened, I switched my camera over to the side because it would look like it was still dancing more to the east, and I didn't want to miss anything like that. So I caught a little bit of a dance here to the east. And as the clouds came in, you could still see it. It was still pretty cool, clear up in here. And really just a spectacular little display. But then, because of this, after the clouds came in, I looked at the forecast and it said, all right, 2 o'clock in the morning it's supposed to be clear. So I'm like, all right, I'll just go set up a time lapse at midnight and set my camera and point it to where I think the aurora is going to be. I just kind of pointed it out here, but I aimed it more east because I figured if it flared up again, it'd do that east thing again. So I pointed my camera, and this is cropped from what it was. So instead of pointing it to where the Northern Lights were supposed to be, or going to be in the main chunk of it, I pointed it too far east, and I missed the left side of it, to my eternal lament. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, here it came, just like it was supposed to, and we had a nice clear out. Yeah, I'm kicking myself forever for not having my camera right, because see, it's about 2/3 of it And then I was just anticipating it dancing up here again, and I didn't want to miss that because I have no experience with how the Northern Lights is supposed to act, and I don't think you could really figure out what to do, without being out there. But it cleared out, the moon went down, so we get a little bit more truer color of night. And I shot this all at 4500K, which is about what you should shoot at night. And then it just started doing this little flicker. And people that were out there said, yeah, it was just like flickering all over the sky. That's a pretty common thing for the aurora to do. I've seen it like from space with the International Space Station. You could just see flickering. But it just kind of hung around and flared up a little bit. You can see little high points up here of it, just not strong, but there. And it kind of danced around like that until about 4 in the morning. Let's get down here. There's 4 in the morning. All right, then it sent a little. You got a little bit of activity in there. Not too much. This is probably 3 in the morning. What time is this? Let's see, where's file info? 2:40 a.m. right there. So 2:40 a.m. So it was just a typical Northern Lights storm. Still KP7 minus 10. KP6 minus 10 probably. And getting some pretty high flares. There's a North Star, and you can kind of see a faint red flare almost go all the way up to the top of it. But when it peaks is when a major chunk of plasma hits the Earth. Then it can push this KP7 clear up higher. So it's still just darn impressive for what it is. But as the night progressed, it just kind of sat there and danced kind of faintly for a while. Starts building. What time is this? Yeah, 3:51. So about 4 o'clock in the morning, we get our final display for the night. And it comes in from the left, and I'm just kicking myself forever for missing the left side of it because it got kind of higher than it did on the right, but still awesome. And here it went, and all of a sudden here comes the pillars again, just like it did before. And we got a little bit of purple in here, which is really cool. And then all these diagonal red pillars. See, it kind of peaked right there. And oh man, I wish I'd have got that from the left, but I didn't. I'm going to lament that the entire video, but then it just formed up. Look at those. Oh my goodness. Oh, and then it just solidified in these twisting pillars. That would have been really cool to see. People that got up at 4 o'clock in the morning saw this. They got the treat of the night, kind of. Well, except for that 11 o'clock show. That was stupid good, too. But look at how the red is oversaturated. I barely edited it. I didn't add any saturation, but it was so red the camera couldn't pick it up. And then this big old red thing just comes screaming over my house. Somebody turn the light on there for a second. I had insomnia the whole night. I couldn't sleep. I should have just got up and got out here, but I was a little bit too fired up for obvious reasons after the 11 o'clock show. But after this big flare went by, then it just kind of went back to what it was and flirted with my house a little bit. There's a kind of straddled my house at one point. It was pretty cool. Just some really interesting after effects. Here's where it straddled my house. This is really cool. Somebody got up to go to the bathroom, I think, right there. Anyway, look at that. Just, ooh. That's a wonderful picture. Just right over my house. And then we started getting some cloud coverage moving here. You can see some clouds starting to creep in from the side. But right as these clouds came in, the activity started picking up again. And another wave hit. And then, whoops. And then here comes a car down the road. Right when this is all happening. So a car comes down the road. Lights up my house. And these pillars are kind of following the speed of the cloud, which is really kind of interesting. And then here comes another car down the road. And these pillars, oh, there was another car. I think it comes in a minute. These pillars kind of made it over to my house, kind of faint. Oh no, here's the other car. Who goes to work at 5:30 in the morning? Seriously, come on. But it was still kind of cool. But then it just kind of solidified. Oh, and then there's another 5:30 in the morning type A personality. It solidified over the top of my house. And look at this. Just, it's almost like I was getting visited. And as it kind of passed over, that was kind of dissipated like it did before. And that was about 5:30 in the morning. And then about 5:10 in the morning. And this all went down, and then by the end of it, it was still on the horizon. Even you can kind of see the beginnings of blue hour kicking in right there, and it was still active. And I guess it stayed active for the rest of the next whole day, so the whole world got to see it. But anyway, that was my experience with I don't know, the Northern Lights show. It was pretty cool.